Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and I'm back for some more of the Merxy Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my Let's Play of Kirby's Dream Land 3 for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom for those who lived in Japan. So last time we actually did tackle through World 2 by the forms of Ripplefield, even though we've once again got ourselves all of these heart stars, despite the fact that I've already messed one up, but in forms of the 5th level most likely, because I couldn't even find Pitch the Burst, not until you're able to actually get yourselves kind with you at all times. And yeah, today for this episode is that we're moving on to the 3rd world in the game, Sand Canyon. So let's see this little introduction cutscene right there. Oh, that orange right there for Gooey. So, choo-choo. Try to be more positive next time around though. Just be positive about this. So anyways, from the get-go, we can actually get this thing started by the forms of this particular level right there. And right from the start though, before you start the level off, we got a mission objective to start up with this time around from the get-go. Because basically the entire impression of this mission is pretty much is exactly like how it does it in the first mission in the entire game, in the forms of the grassland and even the entire game. But except the fact of the matter is that we need to able to do an opposite way, so that as you can see there are tons of mushrooms. Meaning that we need to kill as many red flowers as possible without killing those mushrooms, because as a result from that, if you accidentally killed one of the mushrooms, well, too bad for you, mission fails. Even though it's always to be able to be, well, cruel to those red flowers this time around, which even though I always feel like this is like a complete opposite day for that particular objective-wise like this. So, as far as this mushroom's name was, it was actually Juro Manzikduk. I can't pronounce that last name, I do apologize for that. But even though it's more likely almost like enunciation, but in forms of the Japanese names or something like that, or maybe translated all that stuff, I'm not exactly sure. But anyways though, yeah, for Sand Canyon, this is where the game starts to get a little bit more difficult, especially when it comes to enemy behavior. In fact, let me classify right about now. You know how the fact that I've already mentioned this to you before, they only have 5 units of health this time instead of the usual 6, unlike in how it does in the past games, even in future games as a result. But even then though, this is what makes the game starts to get really difficult in the later worlds, because you know how these enemy behaviors, they're always behaving like, I don't know, something like mix mash, bit far from between. Remember how the fact that we're gonna be coming across into those little, well, you can definitely tell why as we actually proceed to this particular world and onwards. So, yeah, today was actually forms of, oh god, I actually realized about something what today is. Today was actually the unlucky 13th day. Means Friday the 13th, aka the most unluckiest day in the world. So you know what that means, folks? This is gonna be one of those episodes that says specifically in this Let's Play, I'm also able to actually die a lot, which even I know that it might be sounds not as common as it used to be, even though I keep on getting hit by too many enemy contacts here and there, including the likes of the cannonball shots, and basically through pretty much everything else. So, oh god, that was close. Oh, okay. There's no way I can avoid that. That's a bit terrific. But hey, since we actually managed to don't have to worry about the actual mission objective again, because after all, we've already accomplished that, so even though, luckily though, we don't have to restart the entire level or anything like that, so we just have to, like, you know, go straight forward and self-explanatory, and that's about it. So, anyway though, I can't believe we're actually on the, almost at the halfway point of the game, actually, because even though, despite the fact this game only has, like, 5 main worlds, it's screening 6 as the 6th and the final one, which, once, you know, much like how it does in the forms of Kirby's Dream Land 2, that, you do need to acquire to able to collect every single collectibles, most notably heart stars, as opposed to how it does it in, Rainbow Drops in, you know, Kirby's Dream Land 2. So, that makes it pretty obvious what that little situation goes, and here we actually get into ourselves the introduction to these little caveman enemies. Now, whenever you're trying to able to suck up the projectile, oh god, I'm gonna die, aren't I? Anyway though, oh god, these purple little, dinosaur birds type of stuff, these are by far the most annoying enemies in the game in my opinion, because, they're kind of like the Omochao robots, but in forms of how the fact that, well, Omochao based enemies, but in forms of Kirby's Dream Land 2, except well, they try to directly home in on you, which even then, I don't know if that's just me, but I'm pretty sure that every time, oh, okay, good thing I didn't get hit at all, so, well, good thing this might be the ending portion of the son of a... I hate these guys. I seriously hate these guys. Although, to be fair, these caveman enemies aren't too bad to deal with right there. Just be very careful, do not send the projectile back at them, because if you do, this happens. It reflects the actual projectile back right at you. So even then though, you just have to be sure you don't get hit by your own projectile. Think of like the caveman is actually practicing baseball or something like that. But even then though, that makes it a little bit more, pretty much promising. And also, when you're doing like that, whenever you're trying to, you know, pull out the projectile right back at them when you finish hovering for the most part, it also counts as a projectile reflecting, which even then though you don't want to do that, so that's just how it is when it comes to those caveman-based enemies, so... Now, you know how the fact that we can actually able to actually float around all over the place? Well, it wasn't until when it gets to, you know, before Super Smash Bros. Games, and even especially noticeable with Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, things can get a little bit more differently when it comes to Kirby's flying ability, which even then, we'll get to that until about a month later, as I mentioned earlier. And thank you, I need my maximum tomato, because I need that so badly. And of course I've got one more mini star, or in this case 1 star points left until I get myself my 1-up back, after the despicable death I've encountered. So... anyway, so that's it for level 1, in new forms of Sand Canyon. In fact, speaking of Sand Canyon, this is basically, more accurately, it's basically a desert world, because even though in Grassland we've got is just, you know, typical grassy, fieldy level, and then Ripple Field is basically a water level of any kind, and Sand Canyon is basically, the desert stream level, which even though it's pretty obvious at this point. The only levels that is currently missing in the forms of this game than the likes of Kirby Stream Land 2, which are, so far anyway, is the forms of, I'm assuming Big Forest, and especially noticeable with the forms of, Dark Castle, because even then though, because of how the fact that, you know, this game only contains 5 main worlds instead of the usual 7 in the forms of Kirby Stream Land 2, but it's not that bad when it comes to that comparison's sake. So anyways, back into what I was saying, but in forms of this particular objective mission base, and thankfully I've got myself Cody out now. So he behaves exactly like Cody does it in the forms of Kirby Stream Land 2. He can still able to fly as many times you wanted to will be, and you can actually fly with him at all times. Even though that you don't have to like, well, as long as you're able to get yourself the Parasail ability, which I can assuming that much like Cody does in the forms of from last time. That way it can actually just do like a devastating tornado attack, which even though that can be very, very, very recommendable. But of course we're not going to do that right now, because obviously we need to do the mission objective, and by the way, we need to acquire the actual cleaning ability just for this matter until we actually get into the halfway portion of this level, because even then though, as soon as we actually come across into, I wonder what's in here, I wonder. Well, the only thing is though, is that it doesn't contain anything besides just star points, and that's about it, so... I don't know what's beyond in those doors, I wonder, but even then, I'm gonna assume it actually contains either a 1-up, or in this case, maximum tomato, which even then, I probably won't need that for the time being. So let's just go ahead and just keep on flying forward until we're able to actually come across into the mission objective requirement. So, anyway though... So again, there's not much else to, you know, talk for this point, folks, because of how the fact that we've almost at the halfway point of this game, actually, before we're able to jump into the 3rd dimension of Kirby himself. Well, it wasn't until Super Smash Bros. Well, technically, Super Smash Bros. Made Kirby in a 3D debut, the first debut for Kirby in 3D, but it wasn't until when the actual main game of Kirby's game, but in forms of, you know, Nintendo 64 until when it gets to 2000, a year later, after the release of Super Smash Bros. For the 64, which is pretty surprising. So anyways, as you can see right there, he's actually sweeping. So that's what the mission objective is going to be. So even though that's the reason why we need to use the cleaning ability in the first place, because we need to dust off every single floors, which even then there are 2 rooms to clean out. So even though I've already cleaned one of them, I now need to do the next room and able to clean in another room that way. So, crap. And there we go. Since we've heard the jingle, that actually represents mission accomplished. So now we can finish the level as normal, but of course there might be some enemies up ahead, so I really need more health ammo, because even then though, that it makes it a little bit more, I won't say stingy for this part, unlike how it does in new forms of the Great. Well, the Great Cave Offensive does have a multitude of health points, but in this case some of these foods that can able to restore your health instantly. I just get the feeling this game is quite stingy when it comes to health system this time around, because luckily though, there are a ton of 1-ups in this game this time around though, compared to how it does in the Great Cave Offensive, but it's just the fact of the matter is, there are plenty of chances, or there are rare occasions that I might as well able to actually bump into either some occasional 1-ups, which is a very, very common item we can get this time. But often rare times we can actually get ourselves health ammo, which even though the only time you can get health is by either just able to actually access to that specific copy ability, or for that potential for this matter is the actual goal minigame. So anyway. So that's the only thing that makes it a little bit more of a count though. And by the way, for the actual objective NPC character, I think it was actually named as Upa-chan, which even though that actually feels kind of more likely, I don't know. So anyways, let's go ahead and just avoid any of the water. In fact, one thing I must apologize about informs in the last video, because apparently, whenever you're trying to get into the underwater segments in this game in particular, for some reason, it just gets like a weird outline screens, as you can see right there. But I think it's probably because of how the fact that of the emulation of the forms of the capture card devices these days, especially with the noticeable with the forms of the re-release versions of the forms of not just from certain games, but it's also because of how the fact of the emulations of the virtual console versions of the games themselves. So even then, that makes it a little bit odd and somewhat a bit more far from between. So even then, I think Ripplefield is one of the most examples I can think of with the forms of the weird emulation starts to act, even for the actual too much lines. In the forms of when you actually swim underwater, which even then, that's a little bit odd. But anyways, though. To deal with this last part, and there we go. We've managed to accomplish level 2, or in this case, stage 2, Indian forms of Sand Canyon, and we can able to get ourselves our next Heart Star. So let's go ahead and get something rewarding for this. Another maximum tomato. So how about that? Even though I could go for the 1-up, but it's only because I just did die by complete accident by the forms of these stupid dino bird type enemies, which I don't know what their names are, to be honest. So anyways, here we go, on to the 3rd level, and as you expected, we got ourselves a minigame task. Until when we actually get into the lava cannon level. Oh, I'm still stuck with cleaning. I need Cutter, because I haven't seen Cutter for quite some time. Okay, I should probably mention about this, is that much like how it does in new forms of Kirby Dream Land 2, this game is, does have the returning 7 copy abilities ever since, Kirby Dream Land 2. But of course, the new one in the lineup introduced is the forms of cleaning ability, so that gives us a grand total of 8 copy abilities, which, sure, it's a little bit more of the same thing as how it does it in Kirby Dream Land 2. When it comes to the amount of copy abilities and stuff like that, I think this is probably due to the limitations of the forms of the continuation of the exact same stories department, but in forms of, well, for sake of the Dark Matter trilogy when it comes to the Kirby games themselves. So, anyway though. So I think in this level we're actually going to be going into this lava level right there, which I could assume is what we have to go through here. And oh yeah, for the NPC character we're actually going to be bumped into in the specific minigame task. Oh yeah, these little farms are now popping. Are you kidding me? Come on, let's see if I can just... Oh, you gotta be kidding me. You just barely avoid attack. I don't think Ko was actually going to be the bestest companion on this particular room at some point or another. At least we actually did avoid that. But at least we can able to deal with the pop-up forms there, and especially noticeable with... Oh, Christ. Oh, no, I've lost my copy ability. Oh, I'm dead. Oh, shoot. Thanks a lot, crabs. Hey, don't know what's wrong with that. Even then though, these crabs are very, very devastating by the looks of all things, because even then, it's not my fault or anything, it's just a matter of the fact is, since I've accidentally picked up Ko the Owl, which even then, no, that's only because of how the fact that I'm flying all over the place, and as a result, it just makes me lose control of myself, which even then, I'm not sure it's because of how the fact that I was really used to with Kirby's Dream Land 2 for a small extent, with the forms of Cody Owl's momentum there, but it's just a matter of the fact that it takes a while to get used to. But when it comes to between this and the forms of Kirby's Dream Land 2 incarnation, which even I know, that's the only thing I need to get used to. So there we go, we've bypassed that without Cody out with those little stupid little crabs, which even I know, they just completely stops, and yeah, that's all I can tell. I don't know why I keep on getting hit right there. It's only because I can't help it for myself, like, while getting those star points, which even though I don't think that these are worth anything for these particular sections like this, so let's go ahead and move on. Anyway, for the NPC character we're going to be bumped into, but it forms of that particular, somewhat of a combination of a cheek and an egg at the same time, but it forms of, Carl and Mello. Which even though that we can hopefully guarantee we can actually bump into him until we actually bypass this lava section. Which that was the point, we're able to get ourselves a fire copy ability, and I keep on losing it because sometimes enemy behavior can get quite random. But anyways, we made it there at least, so even though let's just go ahead and just get started with the minigame. The minigame in this task though is the fact that we need to keep an eye on how many the exact same amount of faces as the Gordos right there. And then once you're able to find this answer solution, then you would able to actually just to get yourself some of these correct answers. This minigame can get really tricky sometimes because especially the second and the third and final rounds, because in the third and final round, you need to be extremely fast until you're able to memorize how many of the exact same faces there are, so you can then know, oh god, I think it's gonna be 5. Yep, I got it alright. Whew. So yeah, the last one did really gonna give you a lot of trouble if you're your first time playing for this, but as long as you're able to actually do this no problem like I do, that way we can get ourselves the hard start just in time. Until when we get to the very end of the level first, after game bypassing for those little lava stuffs, even though, yeah. Again, it's one of those moments that I might as well get myself my unluckiest day of the world, but it forms of Friday the 13th, so that means I might as well keep on getting hit and... You! Stupid Waddle Dee balloons. Gee, I wonder why they keep on spamming on me in the first place. Anyway. Hey. It's not a very good day for me, isn't it? Well, I could appreciate it from the fact. But anyway though. I don't know if there's anything else I can really talk for this point, folks, because, well, to be honest, there's not much I can just say about it, because, you know... Okay, so let's go ahead and just, avoid these types of enemies like here, including the likes of these little, somewhat of a propeller-looking guys, or in this case, very much like the Omochao-based enemies right there, because that was before when Omochao exists, until before, you know, when Sonic Adventure 2 first released on the Sega Dreamcast and stuff like that. But anyway, let's bypass this little, enemies right there. Okay, alright, good, that's good to know. But regardless of anything else for that death situations, we've pretty much got towards the end. And in addition to that though, we're pretty much at the halfway point in World 3. In fact, World 3 might actually be the longest world in the entirety of the Kirby's Dream Land trilogy, because, despite the fact in Dark Castle and the forms of Kirby's Dream Land 2 might be easily the longest of the bunch, but even then though, it might come close though, it might be really dang close when it comes to, you know, level length and all that stuff. Alright, here we go with the forms of level 4 in Sand Kingdom. Sorry for a little bit of awkwardness has been happening. In this particular level, and especially notable with the mission objective as this will go, once again we need to find something and then just actually bring it back into the requirement player. Just like how it does in your forms of how it does it in your forms in the Ripple Field, and especially the Grass Field as well, or in this case Grassland as well. Which is kind of an odd thing for a name, but in the actual purpose of, you know, the 4th level in your forms of Grassland, which are known as, well, Chao as a female, and then Goku as a monkey, which even though, yeah, it's pretty weird though. So anyways, I believe the NPC characters we're actually going to be bumped into is not 1, but 2 characters, much like how it does in the previous 2 worlds, which are, Dombi and, Hakairi. which even end up that we can able to actually just manage to come across into that particular segments like this. So anyways, let's go ahead and just bypass these little needle-based enemies there. And of course, we need to able to get ourselves Neko the cat with us, because we haven't used him for quite some time, ever since the second world. So we can able to use him again, but in forms of the triple jump ability, which even though sometimes it can be very helpful. Oh, great. Well, there's a maximum tomato right there. In fact, let me go ahead. Sorry for a little bit of a oh crap. Hi, enemies sometimes they always behaving quite randomly to me. Anyway, let's go inside. So from here, I apologize of the actual lines of the actual visual standpoints, because again, emulation issues. But in forms of not only for the, it's not so bad on the actual TV screen, but when it comes to doing a capture card recording, it just makes it almost feels like disorientating at times. But anyway, so this particular location is completely auto-scrolled, so even though I suggest you go down at first and then go up for the second part. And the third and final part, which actually leads you to the actual quest requirement, but in forms of the mission structure requirement, is that we need to actually get into the center. In this case, the second section right there, because that was when Warrior Land's The Shake Dimension in the forms of Nintendo Wii, or Warrior Land Shake It, if you those who lived in North America. You can able to actually just manage to guarantee if which pathway you want to go to can actually either lead you to riches of money, or in this case especially noticeable with the forms of the treasure itself. Here we go with the next mini fights going on here, but in forms of the cleaning boss there, which even though is pretty it's pretty much a joke, especially noticeable when you're able to actually perform fire. And okay, we don't have to kill him instantly. Or in this case, we can just kill him instantly by just simply take a stomp. And here we go, ourselves a collectible, which even though now we need to bring that particular person back into, well, Hikari, or in this case, Danbi, which even though I don't know which ones I can definitely tell what these between these two names were, to be exact, but even though we'll see what happens there. So anyways though, yeah, there's not much else I can say. But even though, oh, it's actually nighttime now, but in forms of this particular world itself. So even though everything else, this might be a little bit more, almost a little bit similar to how it does in forms of, I don't know. Alright, so we've almost there now, so even though we got a whole bunch of enemies to clear out before we're able to actually do anything. And, hopefully we can able to actually, there's no way I can get the invincibility lollipop, which makes this section really, really easy. But, of course not, because, after all, especially noticeable with that one-up I do need to get from the beginning, but of course I don't have my, you know, my cleaning ability with me, so even though it might be too late for now, because even though that, we're pretty much towards the end now, so even though let's go ahead and enter this particular ending portion of it. And that way, we can get ourselves our next heart star here. So yeah, so far, I think we've actually did manage to collect ourselves, let me, calculate how much— oh, you gotta be kidding me. There's no reward for that. So, I'm assuming that we actually get ourselves— I'm assuming 16 heart stars now. So even then though, that, obviously we've got 14 left in the, buddy forms of the corresponding worlds we're gonna be entering to. So here we go, buddy forms of level 5 in Sand Canyon, and basically that, you know, much like in any other level 5 mission tasks, is the fact that we're going to be able to bring one of your animal friends' companions into the very end of the level. Like, for instance, the NPC character we might actually bump into at the very end of this particular level is the forms of Nahi Pan, which even then though, this might be something to do with choo-choo requirements, which even then, we're probably not gonna come towards choo-choo until we get to the next set of sections throughout, which even then though, don't worry, we'll get to that at some point or another. Well, it wasn't until when we actually get into the auto-scrolling section until, well, for the next screen or something. So anyways, let's go ahead and get ourselves— I know it's a bit unnecessary to get that 1-up down there, because obviously I can tell, because I might as well get hit right there. So I might as well take it, I suppose. So let's go to this next door. And until then, let's go all the way down. Woo! I know my woohoo pronunciation has gone really bad so far, because of how I can tell, since my throat is still really almost dried up. actually, let's go ahead and just say right now, I'm actually going to be taking a death right there, because even then, though, since I was able to go after Choo-Choo from that particular section, because the thing is about this particular side quest this time is the fact that, well, obviously I've already mentioned this before, that why I absolutely think that trying to force to able to bring your partner companion, or in this case your animal friend, all the way to the very end is probably the hardest portion of the mission task. That could be same applies for minigames as well, but even then, between these two mission types, I would say that the minigame structure, or in this case the minigame mission structure, is probably the toughest portion of it, because, well, specifically when you get to the third and final round in each minigame, is that it always goes way too fast without timing, especially noticeable if you want to guess that just right, then you need to get that correct, because obviously if you get it wrong, you have to restart the entire level and able to do that task again, which even then is the only difficult part about this. Oh, you gotta be kidding me, I can get hit again. And of course, there goes my fire ability, so that's terrific. Hey, enemy behavior sometimes. Anyway, let's enter this next door here. Right, so basically this is the reason why we need to able to bring Choo-Choo at the very end of the level, because if you couldn't tell already, actually let's go ahead and obtain ourselves, oh yeah, we got ourselves a Kirby ability room, that's kind of nice. And hopefully we need to use fire for this particular Kirby ability itself. Now, you never know how the fact that I constantly showing you by the forms of that particular just a little bit of a brief flamethrower with Choo-Choo with me. But turns out if you manage to able to actually use, oh yeah, she can actually perform a multitude of jumps, but she doesn't jump all the time, mind you, because even then, she will start to get tired out every time you, yeah, you do like that. So yeah. You know how the fact that, when you're trying to press the B button normally, that, all it does is just basically just a really short range, flamethrower, but it turns out, if I could do it properly, there we go. So yeah, you need to actually use the copy ability and the jump button at the same time, so that way it will actually create somewhat of a similar to the hot air balloon. Which even then though, that was really awesome right there. But even then though, that yeah. So of course we got ourselves these little kaboo enemies right there, very much like how it does in the previous games. In fact, they look kind of weird in this game, I kind of think about it, because, well, obviously this style was heavily utilized the crayon style visual standpoint, but these kaboos, they look kind of weird in this game to me, because even the way how they look, or even especially noticeable with the bigger variations as well. Although this is the only visual style I was really used to at this point, especially with the traditional Kirby games these days, but even then still it's kind of weird by the looks of the visual standpoint. But anyways, so anyways, we're pretty much at the very end of this level so far, so even then that's the reason why we do need to bring Choo-Choo in the first place, because, you know, if we actually go all the way up there, she has the most uniquest ability of the bunch, is that she can actually climb on the ceiling, which even then that's pretty cool. And of course you do need to dodge that particular almost shell-based robots there, because if you made one simple mistake, which I could assuming with these particular propeller-based enemies, that much like how it does in the forms of Kirby's Dream Land 2, I could assuming you're actually trying to get rid of your animal friends, which even then we don't want to do that, because if we do that, then we have to do the entire level again, and plus you can't able to go backtrack every now and then, so even then that you have to do it with a linear pathway, so even then that we have to able to do that, unlike how it does in the forms of the future games, that even though backtracking might actually be not that much of a problem, but it's just the fact that, well, at least backtracking might be really handy at some points if you actually miss on something, but when it comes to games like this, you cannot backtrack at all, because you have to stuck with the actual linear pathway, which even though that's the only thing you need to get used to at that point. So anyways, that can get rid of that particular enemy, thank goodness for that, because if it still's there, even with the enemies do respawn, but even then thankfully the enemies doesn't respawn, so let's go ahead and finish the level as normal. And then once you bring Choo-Choo with you, then obviously your heart star is rewarded for you. So yeah, let's see what reward I can get. Please be a maximum tomato. Okay, I might be okay with the 5 star points right there, so even then I might as well take it then. Alright, here we go with the last main level, excluding the boss battle coming up. And this is by far one of the most interesting levels in the entire game actually, and possibly the longest level in the entirety of the game. Because as you can tell, for that little picture icon. Does that look familiar to you? Well, it appears to be Rob the Robot, a peripheral, but it forms of based off from the Nintendo Entertainment System peripheral, which is very interesting. But even then, we're not going to get into more details into that after bypassing those trio of enemies right there, before you're able to actually get into the real portion of the level's gimmick. And of course, I keep on getting hit most of the time with enemies, which is not that good. Dang it! That Kirby must have hidden inside the mushroom cap. That's a bit underwhelming. In fact, I was nearly towards the end of that room there. I mean, I would appreciate it if I was going to make it there, but of course, enemy behavior can get really, really mesmerizing, which, although not so much mesmerizing, but it's just the way how they behave sometimes in this game, in my opinion, because, well, it takes a while to get used to by these point, folks, but it's just the fact that I was in the speedrun tactics you see there, so even then, what's the point of me doing all these speedrun tactics all the time? But even then, we've bypassed that room, thankfully. So, here's the main gimmick of the forms of this level, is that we're actually going inside this particular pyramid over there. So let's go ahead inside there, and it appears to be a technology pyramid, which as you can tell by the forms of the actual background is scrolling. And actually, I have to admit though right away, this is a very cool level, because even then though, not only do we actually come across into as many obstacles as possible, but also you actually travel towards a whole abundance of doors, which by the looks of all things, we start things off, we're actually going to be hopping into this little green slimy cannon right there. And basically all you have to do for the mission objective in this level is to able to collect not only 1, but 5 Rob parts, which even though the first part is pretty much at the top of the actual pyramid, so which is basically we got its head. And now we need to go back down, and of course if you ever think of going down won't be that much of a problem, but it turns out the screen constantly scrolls every time when you actually revisit to this room. You can either it either goes up and you go all the way to the if you go all the way up, but if you want to go down, you have to go all the way down. But of course these blue parts will actually go through, you can actually go through these blue platforms except red ones, because the red ones will pretty much become solids for the most part. So even then though, and from that bottom room over there, this is where we're able to get ourselves not only the copy abilities and especially the healing items, but also animal friends as well. So between these two doors right there, but in forms of left or right, the left door might actually consist of 3 returning animal friends from the forms of Kirby's Dream Land 2, and the door on the right is basically just some animal friends that are brand new on the list. So it's a very recommendable room if you want to able to actually just to keep on messing up at one point or another, but that won't be the same applies for the healing items either this time, because even though since I've already obtained one from earlier ago. So anyway, so the next Rob part we need to grab is the forms of, we need to recommend Kind, and especially with the combination of lightning ability, because that way it will actually light the entirety of the room up until if you're able to light up the room, it tells you which door you need to enter, which even though that actually represents circle means the correct path, and if it's X's means it's the wrong pathway. So even though it's not too bad for that part, but until when it gets to the other few rooms, as far as you might as well know. Oh, there we go. And then if you manage to find the correct path, then we get ourselves the bottom part of the forms of Rob's parts. So anyway though, so as far as NPC characters we actually bump into, not only do we actually come across into Rob the Robot, but also Professor Hatcher, which even then though, that actually represents a I was classified for Gyromate, but in forms of how the fact that in the, also based off from the NES game, which even then, oh yeah. Alright, so for the next Rob part, we need to able to actually guess which rooms we want to able to actually go into. Very much like how it does it for the Rainbow Drop requirement in the forms of the Dark Castle, which even then though, we have to basically figure out which one of those copy abilities will actually lead you to the correct path to the Rob's body part, or even especially noticeable body forms of, well, yeah. So, ultimately though, you want to ignore the middle door at all times, because even though if you get into the middle door by complete accident, then you're probably not going to get that particular Rob Rob's body parts, which even then know that it might be a little bit more incompensate. So anyway, for this next copy ability we do need is Needle, and if you're following for this particular video, as you can see right there on this footage, you can definitely tell which is the correct pathway to get at, which actually leads us to the actual next raw parts. So yeah, overall it's not too bad though, honestly. And of course we do need kind once again, but the informs that if we actually get into the bottom right room, which you can definitely tell why once we actually get to this part. And of course we do need to able to get the Paracel ability once we've done with this body part, even for the Rob parts. So yeah, there are 5 parts to collect in this particular quest, even for the mission structure, which even in as far as I said this before, this is easily the longest level in the entirety of the game. It's not just because of the actual level itself, but also due to the actual quest system, or in this case a mission structure quests to deal with here. Now normally you can't make it to the Leaps of Faith with Kind with just on its own, but obviously we do need to get ourselves our Paracel ability for Kind, because you can definitely tell why once we're able to actually find the Paracel. In fact, the Paracel is actually on the other side of that particular copy ability room. So let's go ahead and just not grab that, and let's go and go down right here. Get the Paracel. There we go. And then that way we can able to actually get ourselves our next Rob parts, which by the way, we've actually got the body parts done, including the legs of the head. Now we need to get his arms. So even I know that it might be pretty obvious with that point. So let's go ahead and do a Leaps of Faith here. And there we go. Now we can able to reach into the store here, because this is also the reason why we need Kind in the first place, because of this part. So that way, since this is entirely based in water, basically, I'm assuming Cody Owl won't do a thing until when it gets to the second arm, because speaking of Cody Owl, we probably should need not only Cody Owl, but also the rocket copy ability as well. So even then though, that pretty much does the job done. So even then though, actually, kind of thinking about it though, of all the body parts we're gonna have to get into, the second arm for Rob is probably by far the more difficult ones, because, well, I won't classify when we're actually just trying to able to get into it towards it until now, but even then though, let's go ahead and get ourselves the next bottle right there to able to replenish my health real quickly, and switch over to Kind to Cove there. Luckily though, you don't die on this particular room there, because as you can tell right there, that it's perfectly safe, because you know, most of these Animal Friends rooms always doesn't brings us to a death situation, quite frankly. So even then no. Yeah, let's go ahead and continue. No, go back in there. Jeez, there we go. So anyways, now let's fly all the way up, and now here we are to the bottom left room over there, which thankfully, well, if you manage to get back into each room every time, one of those little destroyable blocks can be easily respawned here. So this is it. We need to use Rock and Co at the same time, so that we can able to destroy them. And I failed. So meet you guys back. That's just terrific. Let's try this again. Anyway, trying to use the rock ability, and I suggest you disable Code from that particular section right there, and able to use Kirby for the majority of this section here, because I will admit though is that this is by far the most difficult part about this level, because if you made one simple mistake, not only do you able to get rid of your copy ability and all that stuff, but it's also because you lose your Code out with you, so even then though, it makes it incredibly difficult to get that body part right there, I'm gonna have to admit. Oh my god, that was really close. If I die again, this means I have to do the whole entire process again, which even then, that would be not fun. But anyways, here we go with the last body parts, body forms of his second arm. Luckily though, if you do accidentally die in this particular level after collecting those body parts for Rob, luckily though, you don't have to backtrack and get the go back to the exact same rooms again, which is quite frankly though, because even then if that's usually happening, then it will become a bit of a tedious chore to go through. But anyway, so I think that pretty much does it for this level, after all the shenanigans I have to actually go and been through. Oh, this camouflage looking faces. If you manage to get attacked by a tongue, or in this case if you get caught by his tongue, you need to break out of there instantly until you're able to actually realize something else happens. So anyway, there's a room full of these forms there, and after bypassing through that, we can able to get the heck out of here. See, I do really like this level so much because even though it does add some more variety in them, and plus this place is easily the most recommendable room. If you're having trouble just actually getting those raw parts to begin with, you can actually head back into the copy ability room and the Animal Friends rooms. Although there are 2 rooms in total with the forms of the Animal Friends rooms. So even though if you're having trouble with that, be sure to recommend revisiting one of those rooms because that way you can have yourselves an easier time. So anyways, in this last level, this last portion of the level right there is to actually, probably, God forbid, trying to able to avoid these cannon shots because they will try to kill you if you're not careful. And we pretty much made it towards the end. So here's Rob in his little perfect fit for him, in addition to Professor Hatcher right there. And yeah. Hopefully Kirby will meet up with Rob until Super Smash Bros. Brawl as he forms of the playable character, along with Super Smash Bros. 4 for Nintendo Wii U, of course. I would appreciate it with the maximum tomato for this next boss fight, but oh well, nothing matters anyway though, so anyways, we've got ourselves all these heart stars, and here we on to this next boss in this game, but it forms of this duo boss, but it forms of Pawn and Con. Basically, this particular battle is basically, Kirby's Dream Land 3 version of the forms of Lo and La. Although, except the noticeable differences, this time around they move around all over the place. Although, it does the exact same thing as each other, except the fact that, they can now jump over ledges this time, as opposed to how it does it on the, just one section or between the 2. One thing in mind is the fact that it makes this boss a little bit slightly trickier than the likes of Lo and La is the fact that you need to be right on with that specific projectile shot, but it forms of not only Pawn, but also Con as well. So that's the only thing you need to keep in mind. And quite frankly though, recently that these 2 duos will make a comeback in the forms of Kirby-style allies, which, again, spoiler alert if those of you who haven't seen the gameplay footage of Kirby-style allies yet, I probably won't spoil this again. But even though that, let's just go ahead and just concentrate just beating those duos there. Okay, assuming those 2 duos may actually share the exact same amount of health points, which even though 50% for, you know, Pawn, and especially Con for 50% of this, even though that makes it pretty obvious because, you know, this boss is exactly like how it does in the forms of Lo and La, but in forms of Dreamland 1, and especially noticeable with Kirby Superstar, and that's about it. Well, except for Kirby's Adventure, because it's been replaced as the forms of Painter Roller, so that makes it pretty obvious at that point. I do say though, I really do enjoy the boss theme in this game, because even though it makes it a little bit more, I don't know, intense looking. So anyways, I'm pretty sure these 2 duos are almost down there. So let's go ahead and deal with, oh, nice. Nice shot on this last shot. Now we have to deal with that raccoon now. So, yeah, between Pawn and Con, they are both, Fox, and especially noticeable with the raccoon. Wait a second. That was before when Super Mario 3D Lands managed to introduce you know the Super Leaf ability that you can get from Mario, that you pretty much transform into Raccoon Mario, and then when Luigi actually obtains the Super Leaf, he will eventually become into Fox Luigi. Huh. Okay then. That might be sounds before beyond that, but anyways, we've pretty much done with Sand Canyon. I will say though, this world is by far the longest world in the game, because of that particular 6th level you have to go to. But anyway, 3 worlds down and only 2 more to go. So if that's the case, we're gonna have to end things off here, I'm afraid. So join me next time on Let's Play Kirby's Dream Land 3 for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom. Is the fact that we're going to be moving on to world number 4. So even though we're pretty much almost nearly towards the end of this game, surprisingly. So yeah, see you guys next time. Later, fellas.